Hello, and welcome to Feed Label Dissection. After we are done here with the history of animal science, we're going to pump right into animal science itself. And so we're going to be dealing with feed labels. Our objectives are to examine and summarize the meaning of various components of feed labels and be able to apply that information to how do we actually feed an animal, and then evaluate and summarize potential impacts, positive and negative, of compliance or non-compliance with a feed label and feeding directions. A feed label can be multiple different shapes, sizes, but they all have the same information. So there is an anatomy of a feed label like there's an anatomy of the animal itself. The feed label could be small, like this little one that's down here in the corner. Maybe you can kind of see it. I think I can do something like this there. So you can see the feed label could be a small little label like this that was on a blank feed sack. For instance, it could be on a big feed sack, and the feed label could be this little feed label tag that's at the bottom. Or it could be one of these. Maybe you recognize this a little bit better, and so it's got the pretty advertising all over it, but it still has all the information, especially down in this corner here, where you're going to have your anatomy of the feed label itself. So what we're going to be doing now is trying to get you some background information. All feed labels are legal documents regulated by the Association of American Feed Control Officials, and the FDA also has it. And so all of these governmental agencies are trying to make sure that you have a safe product in that bag. The company itself then is actually the ones that are responsible for that. And what they are responsible for giving you is a product name. It sounds kind of obvious, but it has a product name. It could be more advertising, or it could be a bluntly one that doesn't really have any advertising at all. For instance, this one called Purina Omoline 200 Performance is its name. It has a purpose statement underneath it. This purpose statement is the item, what that feed is specifically for. And so it tells you, is this for growing puppy dogs? Is it for a young horse, a growing pig? It gives you a shortened sentence of what the actual feed is for. Then comes some meat. This particular meat is the meat that is going to be what we will spend a lot of time trying to learn here in the next couple weeks, and it's the guaranteed analysis. That guaranteed analysis is based on regulations of the government and also of just studies done by universities that say these are the minimums that we need to have for certain diets. And so this guaranteed analysis will include things like crude protein, crude fat, crude fiber. And all of these crudes then also lead into like some of the crude vitamins. It depends on which feed you have to which ones you actually utilize or will be on there. I got a sliver right there on my finger. Oh, I just noticed that. Gosh, kind of want to pick at it. I'm sorry for this little break, but it was just bothering me. I didn't get it. If you were wondering, I didn't get it. Where was I? Oh yeah, guaranteed analysis. So these guaranteed analyses are your different crudes. They're set by research. Then you'll have an ingredient list. This ingredient list may include individual ingredients or collective terms. So an individual ingredient could be like oat or rice or corn, or it could be a collective term like processed grain byproducts. The terminology can kind of be a little bit confusing into these range, and so we're going to have some vocabulary list that we can insert into here. These relate into the idea that we aren't going to be feeding sometimes corn, we're going to be feeding parts of corn. And that's going to be a hard example for some of you to get grasped, and some of you are going to grasp it right away. After the feeding ingredient list, we move into directions. This one is very important into the range of It tells you how to feed them. If you're not going off a veterinary directive, then the next best thing you have is YouTube. No, wait, no, not YouTube. Facebook? No. The next best thing you have is the actual feed directions that are on the label. We don't usually follow these, even though they're on there. And so these feed guidelines, unless your veterinarian tells you to use a different one, this is how you should base your feeding, because it's what the feed is designed to do. Those ingredients and those guaranteed analyses, I don't remember what the plural one for analysis is, but I didn't do it right. But those two are specifically designed to meet your feeding direction. Other items that are on here are like your bag weight, how much you have. That kind of helps you with how long will this bag last? You can figure out through your feeding directions and your bag weight to say, okay, I'm going to be able to do 50 feedings or so into there. And they can also have a caution statement. The caution statement would be like, do not store in wet areas, or medicated, keep away from non-medicated feed. It's a caution statement based on what your particular feed has. Under each one of your guys' desks is a different feed label. The different feed labels can be little itty bitty tags like this, or some of you guys have a giant bag like this, or some of you guys have giant bags that look a little different than that first one. Each one of those are going to be underneath your desk. If yours doesn't have one, it's probably because it got blown away to the other side. Just find one and that somebody isn't using, because there's probably somebody gone today. Utilize theirs if you have to. But you'll pull that one out, and on there you are to use the information from the lecture I just gave you about what is on a feed label, and then move into answer the questions on the Google form. Some individuals will look different, meaning like just like what the lecture had, it's just like it. So it's just like this, and there's a front and a back. But then some of you guys will have to try to find it, and it's still on there, but it's just on the sides, or it's used in some sneakier place for advertising specifically. This will hopefully get you some on the right track to examining and summarizing the meanings of various feed labels. And then we probably aren't ready to summarize impacts and potential impacts, but we are going to get ready to start to utilize this to apply to certain animals.